Hello, I'm James, and I'm an old guy in Europe. Hello, and welcome to another episode of An Old Guy in Europe. Again, with Carl Munson on his Good Morning Portugal Show, he, Luisa Munson, and I talk about a variety of things, including being an immigrant in Portugal, privilege, wealth, entitlement, judgment, ego, being mindful about it all, and gratitude, if that's not enough. So, as always, please just sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Wayne, Harry.
Bon dia.
So, what has been on your mind, Slug's friend James, this week?
Well, today is, speaking of vulnerability, I had some thoughts about what I might like to bring to the show, and then not so much in dreams, but in waking this morning, I started thinking of privilege. And part of that came out of my gratitude, because one of my morning rituals is to practice gratitude. So I spend time looking at what I'm grateful for. And very often, almost every day, one of the things I'm grateful for is being here in Portugal. And that just clicked something in my head about privilege, the privilege of being here, that then led itself to this idea, and I don't think I'm terribly wrong, that virtually everyone in our community is extremely privileged. And we tend to, I know I do, and I think we tend to lose sight of that. We're privileged. If we're here on a visa, it means we have financial means to be here, which in this modern day world is a huge advantage in being able to live more comfortably and have more choices available to us. So this idea of privilege, to me, it just really kind of took over my thinking. And speaking of your body, Luisa, my body, it just really hit me what that means in a way that I don't think I've ever really felt it before. But that really got me thinking about the value of awareness of our privilege. So, there are people who feel guilty for it. There are people who feel superior for it. There are lots of feelings that come with this sense of privilege. But for me, it's not about that. It's about gratitude. It's about being grateful that I have what I have. And this notion that it's not even a responsibility, but what's attached to that for me is to look at, what am I complaining about? I have complaints. We all have complaints.
Yeah.
But if I then shift my view to my privilege, then I become grateful for what I have, as opposed to complaining about what's not quite working right. And I'm as guilty of it as anybody. I've been complaining a lot in the last several months about how I cannot possibly figure out how to get my damn driver's license exchanged. Like that's the biggest problem in the world, because it's relevant to me personally in the moment. But when I look at, where am I having this complaint from? I'm having this complaint from an incredibly affordable lifestyle in a country of generosity and kindness, and with the opportunity to learn a language and meet people from all over the world. It's like all of a sudden this driver's license thing is just not a thing anymore. So it's the gratitude for what I have that diminishes the complaining and increases the peace. And that's really my message in terms of the notion of privilege. It's a function of awareness. With the privilege, if I choose to become more aware of it, then I'm also aware of people with less privilege. I'm aware of the challenges in the world, and it allows me to consider what, if anything, do I want to do about that? What choices do I want to make, given my position of privilege, where I might be able to influence the world in positive ways that other people might
And
not.
what I'm hearing there is this feeling of vulnerability for having no privilege.
Not so much vulnerability for me, because I don't disparage the privilege that I have. For me, it's mostly about awareness, but I'm aware, I'm also in that awareness aware some people feel guilty that they have privilege. Some people feel ashamed about it. It's like that, for me, that's not the most constructive way to have that. Is to look at the gratitude of being in that position, and what do I, if I choose to do anything, what do I want to do with it? And I think that's a way out of that shame. Is I'm doing things to attempt to make the world a better place because of the privilege that I have. Is for me a much better place to live in than, oh
nice.
God, other people are poor and they're starving to death and they can't, it's like that doesn't do me or the world any good.
Yeah.
So that's the point for me. The vulnerability is perhaps in bringing it to light, talking about it. I don't think privilege gets talked about a whole lot. And again, the vulnerability for me today is that when I write, it's usually to bring myself some clarity or to express myself in ways that I might not speak it. So very typically what I've written is like a real revealing of myself.
One thing you mentioned was in the use of the word privilege. It has been used as a stick to beat people with more recently.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you just don't want to go there, do you? It's a bit like the environment. I think the environment, there's a lot of kind of self-hatred and human hating going on at the moment, and people being made to feel very ashamed and embarrassed of being a human being, or being this kind of human being in relation to that other kind of human being. And I agree with you completely. That doesn't help us at all. It's not a resourceful state for the future of humanity for people to be feeling like that. Now, fair enough. If they feel like that, they feel like that. Excuse me. And it's important that we don't gloss over that or bury it or hide it. And that's exactly what you've done this morning, haven't you? You're aware of a feeling you've got. You've brought it up for consideration, and you seem to have made something rather good of it. And you've reframed privilege for me in that way, because I don't like to think about it, because it is exactly that for me. When I think of privilege, I know I'm privileged, and I don't want to have it as an instrument of shame or comparison or a way of undermining myself or anybody else.
Or
So
to
thank
be discriminated against because of it. Because there are those people with less privilege who demonize those that have, and I think there's all kinds of room for both directions. But the point ultimately is that doesn't change or help anything. It just tends to separate us more rather than bring us together.
Yeah. And you're not saying people shouldn't do it either, are you? You're just noticing what happens when that does happen and what we might do about it. Yeah, there you go. There he is. That's why he's here on a Monday morning. Everybody, beautiful insight this morning.
Well, it's all about the notice, choose, and act. So that, I noticed it, then my choice was to ponder it, think about it. What do I want to say about it? And then to take action on that. So the same is true as awareness is raised. That's the notice. So as people may be thinking about it more, then they're in a position to choose what they want to do about it. If they've been feeling guilty about it, is that the choice I want to make? And what else could I choose? And what actions can I take that will support that choice? That's really what it's about. Empowering ourselves to be the best selves that we choose to be.
Well said. Well said. Thank you very much for that indeed, this morning.
If we're choosing to live in gratitude, we can go down and down and down in terms of our resources, but if we have a roof over our head, we can be grateful. If we have food to eat, we can be grateful. If we have people who love us and that we can love, even if we don't have shelter or food, we could be grateful. So privilege is even flexible. I think we have a general understanding that privilege means people of means. people who
Yeah.
have substantial amounts of things. And so I don't want to get down to, oh, the homeless person has a nickel in his pocket so he can be grateful. It's like, no, that's not privilege. But the idea mostly is to notice, to be aware. And in that moment, when we see someone that we think might have less resources than us, be grateful that we have our privilege. Be grateful that we have the resources we have. And in that, maybe say, where we might tend to look away if someone is asking for money, we might tend to look away and not want to acknowledge that, because there's some part of our privilege that gets challenged, is to rethink that and say, well, I'm in this position, and which puts me in a position to be generous. And I don't know if this euro is going to help or not. I had the experience in Santa Cruz, California once, because I made a point of getting dollar coins as spare change that I carry around with the intention of giving it all away in the course of that day. And I approached one woman and I handed her a dollar coin. She thought it was a quarter, because in US coins, they do stuff like that. It looks almost exactly like a quarter, but it's 4 times more value. She literally started crying because I had handed her a dollar instead of a quarter.
Wow.
And it's like, these things can make a huge difference. And I had some guy following me, or not following me, he was walking behind me, seeing me handing out dollars to people who are asking for money on the street in Santa Cruz, and there's a lot of them. And he got mad at me. He said, you're just causing these people to come here and want to stay here.
Really?
I'm like, well, inside I said, fuck you too, mister. But I didn't actually say it. You know, I don't know what I said, but I carried on. I wasn't shamed by it. You know, if anything, I felt more righteous about it. But so
Well done.
we just don't know what difference our kindness and our generosity can make. And if we don't have a dollar, but we have a dime, well, maybe it won't make a huge difference to the other person. That's not really the point. The point is I'm making an effort to be the most generous I can be, given the resources I have. In my experience of reading Neil Walsh's Conversations with God's books, there was one thing that stuck with me, which was you can be generous simply by giving what you have. So if you don't have money, give someone a flower. If you don't have a flower, give someone a compliment. You know, give what you have. Give your heart. You have your heart. You know, that's where generosity comes from. And that's what, if you're looking at this notion of karma or energetic return on how we exist in the world, if you're being generous like that, then I believe that the world is generous back, that there's energy that comes back in that way somehow. So
Wonderful.
You don't have to be rich to be generous. Well, at least rich monetarily.
Yeah.
I think it's important to make the distinction between wealthy and privileged. They're not the same thing, right?
Yeah.
As entitlement is not the same thing as privilege. You can be poor and feel entitled. You're not necessarily, that's not necessarily a function of privilege. So for me personally, when I'm thinking of privilege, it means have an advantage. So if I own a home, I'm privileged. Because in my case, in my life, I was never able to buy a home. So people who can sell a home and move are privileged, even if they're living in their country, you know, paycheck to paycheck. If people have the sale from a home or can buy a home in Portugal, for instance, that's privilege too, even if it puts them to having to budget themselves. Because I'm not in a position to have a home and live the way I want to live, but I'm still privileged because I can choose the way I want to live. I just can't buy a home. So there's that element to it. And I think you're absolutely right. As I was thinking about it this morning, you know, refugees in the country would not necessarily be considered privileged unless you really want to stretch it and say they're fortunate enough to not be stuck in a country that's oppressing them anymore. You know, I wouldn't say that's privilege necessarily. Certainly something to be grateful for. So yeah, I certainly didn't intend it to be a blanket statement for the community. I think what I said is most of us in this community, and I don't know that much about it, short of the names that come up in the comments, and you know, and some of the conversations are clear, like, oh, I don't know which house to buy. It's like, okay, So there are those people for sure.
Yeah, very, very fortunate.
Yes, perspective and opinion become a therefore. That's how I define judgment.
Okay, yeah, go on, say more.
So it's like, okay, I have an opinion that is by virtue of what it's called an opinion. It's not necessarily based on anything factual. It's just something that I have, something I believe, an opinion I hold.
Yeah.
That's fine. I can have all the opinions I want, and it doesn't hurt anybody. But judgment comes when I say, if you fit whatever my idea of my opinion is, and then I put a therefore you are, or therefore you believe, or therefore that's a judgment. Or therefore it's a bad thing, or even a good thing. I mean, we talk about judgments, but not all judgments are bad. We judge people in positive ways too. There's still judgments. I mean, the thing is, a judgment in and of itself doesn't hold any power. It's just a judgment. It's what we attempt to do with our judgment and how people receive that judgment that impacts people. Because I've been, if one of the practices that I have learned that I find very powerful is, in essence, judging people positively by recognizing character traits they may not see in themselves, but I see. So it's my judgment that you have these things. It's my opinion that you have these things. I see you as being loving. I see you as being dedicated and committed and kind. Those are things of opinions I may have about you based on my experience of you, that when you hear them actually lift you up. I mean, so judgment can bring you down. It can lift you up. It can make you feel superior or inferior. There's lots of things judgment can do. So a lot of it goes with how are you framing it, and are you aware that what you're saying is a judgment to begin with? So maybe you don't even need to say it.
It's all navel gazing, really, in a way, isn't it? Unless you're actually doing something about it. So thank you for that, Pete.
And I might even find an argument for that. Being able to navel gaze is a position of privilege. You have the time and space in your life to pontificate, right?
Yes.
It's like, I remember back in the early 70s, there was conversation about all these hippies were just privileged kids because they were taken care of otherwise. So they had the time and the freedom to consider what's wrong with the world and what they want to change, and navel gaze and all the rest of it. So an argument certainly could be made for that. Again, it's not about making it, it's not about fault. For me, the empowering position is gratitude, and then the choices you make and the actions you take based on those choices. That's the power of it. It doesn't do anyone any good to be ashamed of it or proud of it, or, as you said, many of us, it's just a function of what we were born into or what's been made available to us over the course of our life. So, and humans do that. That's a human characteristic. We judge. So we can't not judge. So then it's a matter of being aware of what we're judging, why we're judging, how we're judging, and what we want to do with it. But humans are meaning making and judgers. We do those things.
Aren't we just? And we can acknowledge that, which is quite a privilege again, isn't it? And ask that question: how's that working out for us as well? What are the results of our judging and our meaning making, and where's it leading? And if we could observe it, but as you say, James, because we are meaning making machines, if we could just observe it and be with it, and then take a form of action other than getting angry to add to the.
Well, that's the role of ego again. I believe that every conflict is an ego conflict. So yes, we get angry. Why do we get angry? Because your opinion is wrong and mine is right. That couldn't be a more entrenched ego position.
The thing is, everyone has some sort of privilege. The key is to recognize what yours is and start asking yourself, what am I doing with this privilege? Yeah,
absolutely.
Stephen saying the big question is, are we judging are we judging to make us feel better than others, i.e. you are bad, etc., or are we judging to make others feel better about themselves, i.e. you look good, that was nice, etc.? And I guess you would say the latter is more favorable. and until it becomes fixed. And isn't that the motion and the movement of the human? When we try and fix things, it doesn't seem to go terribly well for us.
Well, when we qualify something, we're judging. I mean, you just can't get away from it. If we qualify it as good or bad, that's a judgment.
Yeah. But then do we hold on to it? Do we turn it into a holy book with which to beat other people? That
An ego position.
Action. James, last word to you. Thank you so much for that very thought-provoking discussion and input this morning. Have a great week. Do you have a last word?
Yeah, I just want to say that I came in feeling a little bit anxious about a discussion about privilege and how it might impact us. And I feel supported by the community and feel really good about having had the conversation. So thank you very much for all of that.